Free Japan Channel number 154. Today, December 20th, Saturday. The time is 6 p.m. Outside is already dark. How are you doing, dear listeners? Tonight's topic is Trump's national speech. This is the topic of today. Trump's national speech at the end of this year, 2025. In November 2024, Donald Trump was re-elected the US president, and almost 11 months have passed since then. And this time, Trump boasted of his achievement that the inflation is now very low compared to that of Biden administration. Oil price is very reasonable, $55 per 1 gallon, according to WTI. This reasonable price, not only of oil, but also of other commodities, is the efficient policy of Donald Trump. He also added that the immigrant policy was also very efficient. According to Trump, Biden administration let criminals enter the United States without any check and inspection. 25 million immigrants poured into the United States, said Donald Trump. However, since the inauguration of Trump administration, this influx of immigrants suddenly halted. Zero, said he. He said that Biden always accused the parliament of immigrant problems. However, new president was required to overcome this problem, not Biden, but Trump. And then Trump stopped the influx of immigrants, and then the US cities became much safer. In this way, Trump was very proud of his achievement, which we also have to acknowledge. However, the last thing Trump mentioned was war, Ukraine war. What did he say in the electoral campaign in 2024, for example? He reiterated that if Trump becomes the US president next time, he would stop the war. He would end the war within 24 hours. He could talk with Putin and with Zelensky, and then he mediate the discrepancy of these two persons, and then Ukraine war will end soon. It was his public promise or public pledge to the United States and to the world. However, 11 months have passed, but Ukraine war has not ended yet. And in the foreseeable future, this war will continue because there is no compromising point between Putin and Zelensky for the time being. So it was very natural for Trump not to mention anything about this war in this national speech at the end of this year. Trump, perhaps keenly aware that this Ukraine war is the task that he would tackle in 2026, next year. Of course, we should not attribute this war only to Trump. No. There are so many intricate factors interacting about this war. Therefore, we cannot pin down the exact reason for this war. The history of that part of the world is also very, very complicated, and we cannot clearly distinguish Russians from Ukrainians, historically speaking. Of course, they can distinguish themselves from the other because of the difference of language, for example, or because of the culture, tradition, or temporality. However, in history and from racial perspective, Russians and Ukrainians are so alike, and their origin is also the same. Therefore, President Putin had some reason that he would regard Ukraine as his porch or as his yard. However, on the other hand, Ukrainians don't feel that they belong to Russia or don't want to listen to the order of President Putin because Russia is completely other country from Ukrainian perspective. This war, Ukraine war, will continue even in 2026, unfortunately. The national speech of President Trump suggests that the international affair is so difficult to handle, even for the person of savvy like Trump. Thank you.